Hey guys, and welcome back to another Let's Draw. Today I'm going to be using a combination of Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop in order to get the piece that I'm working with here. What I'm starting off with is I'm just doing some basic line work with Adobe Illustrator just to kind of get my idea down on paper. Pretty much what this is going to be, it's going to be kind of like a logo intro for a friend of mine at work for his Twitch channel. So he kind of wanted something kind of like a Cthulhu, kind of like a squidish, kind of octopus kind of feel. So what I started doing was I wanted to do kind of like an example of what I have in my mind working with him. He wants something with something like tentacles and kind of like a skull, kind of demonic looking a little bit. So here's what the first draft is going, starting off as. I started thinking of, okay, kind of like the Punisher skull, maybe with like a squid, kind of like head, and just kind of putting some different flavors here and there around on the piece. So here I'm just drawing down everything, just kind of what's going on in my head, just getting some line work done pretty much in Photoshop or Illustrator. Once I was done with Illustrator, I imported it over to Photoshop so I could start dropping my base color here. And originally I was going to use orange just to kind of make the piece kind of stand out a little bit more. The further I started getting along with it, the less I started liking the orange. So what I'm going to do later on in the video is I'm going to show you how I use hue and saturation and some other tools in Photoshop in order to change your piece drastically to kind of fit the direction that you're looking at the piece itself as you're doing it. And one of the biggest benefits of using digital painting is when you draw something, when you paint something, you're not 100% stuck with what you just did. You do have the abilities, depending on how you do your setup and how you paint with your digital canvas. So what I usually do is I usually use layers on the right side. I drop a base color and then I create a layer on top in a clipping mask area. That way you can kind of start drawing your details, your global shadows, your global highlights, and then get there and really fine tune your detail work later. That way, if you do want to change, which is something I'm going to do a little bit later in the video, color, you just go back to your base color and then you can start using like hue and saturation and just rework everything as you would like to see how things would change for the piece overall. So that's what I'm going to be doing on this one. I'm going to go ahead and pause it. Right now we're in the speed effect to where you can just kind of see me drawing everything, kind of getting everything worked around in Photoshop. Then I'll go ahead and pause it and I'll explain a little bit more on what I'm doing with hue and saturation, how to get there, and just kind of the basics of it. I'm not going to go too in depth with it. It's just going to show you as an example of what you can do. If you do like the direction of the video, that it's going in that direction, definitely leave me a comment and I can start planning a little bit more like, okay, here's how you can use the software or the program to be able to do certain different effects. But as you can see here, I'm just dropping down my shadows, a little bit of detail work, just kind of getting everything laid out. Later on in the video, I'll be showing you some ways to use levels in order to really enhance the piece. But for right now, let's go ahead and get ready to just get into the hue and saturation. So here, let's go ahead and pause. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my base color, which will be this one. I'll go ahead and call it base real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and use hue and saturation. Now you can hold Control U, which will bring that up, or you can go to Image, Adjustments, and Hue and Saturation. Now what I'm planning to do is change the orange to another, maybe like a beige kind of green, just kind of give it more of a slimy feel. Let's drop this down to about right. I kind of like that with the purple. Maybe just a little bit. Yeah, that looks all right there. And drop the lightness down just to kind of see if it gives it a little bit more pop. Yeah, there we go. That's really bringing out the purples that I laid down just to kind of give it a little bit of texture. And I think I'm going to go ahead and keep that. Let's just kind of play a little bit with the shadows, see if we can bring the level up a little bit, just to kind of make everything stand out a little bit more. That looks okay right there. But yeah, that's one of the great things about using Photoshop is You can use Control U and you can hit colorize here and you can change to any different varieties. Oops, wrong, wrong layer. But you can hit Control U, colorize, and you can really adjust your piece in a lot of different ways. If you want it to go purple, blue, just kind of give it a different variety of colors, see which one you really like. So you can go in there and make some changes without actually having to redo the entirety of the piece. But that's one of the benefits of using Photoshop with the digital painting. And now let's get back to just a little bit of the actual detail work. We got quite a bit of work to do on this one, but this I was kind of liking the orange, but I definitely wanted to change it a little bit, especially after dropping the purple. I wanted to kind of see what other colors kind of made it pop. And let's see, let me see if I can bring, there we go. And it's a little bit too dark. That works about right there. But yeah, you can use your levels, your hue and saturation. There's quite a bit of other things that you can do. Usually if you want to change it, that's the great thing about putting everything in a base, is your base, you can change it and it changes retroactively upwards. So the stuff that sits on top, the layers, such as your shadows, the purple, the green that I laid here, let me go ahead and label that so I know what that is. Everything else kind of fits and molds around it. So that's a great little shortcut that you can use for later on if you're kind of wanting to changing the color scheme and everything of your piece that you're working on. But for now, let's get back to actually doing the drawing or the painting. So let's get back to it. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to drop a little bit of detail work just to kind of give it a little bit more depth, more texture. Just start working everything together with the colors that I'm going to be planning on dropping. This is one of the pieces that I wanted to use a lot of color just to kind of show you're not just stuck with blacks or whites for highlights and darks. You can use color. There is different colors and shades and tones in your skin as well as everything else. So you can definitely use different shades and of color just to kind of give things more character, more life. So while doing this piece, I really liked the green, the olive green, so I continued using that. Even though I was liking the direction it was going, I'm going to be using another tool just to show you the different blend modes and how they work with Photoshop. You can really change a piece with using a different blend, especially when you use everything in layers the way that I have everything set up. I'm going to be playing with the different settings that I have available to me through Photoshop. That way I can just kind of see, okay, what do I like better? How does a piece stand out more, or the direction that I'm going with right now, does it already work the best that it's being laid down as? But for right now, let's go ahead and just kind of play around with different blend modes. And now we're to the point where we're going to play a little bit with the global shadows that I originally set. Now, what I set it to was multiply originally, but once I started adding color, I kind of liked the way that it was going. So I'm going to drop it down to maybe overlay and just kind of see how the artwork kind of pops a little bit more. It just shows a little bit more of the color, the use of color that's going into the piece. And you can see when we drop it down what it does. It brings the greens out more. Just kind of play around with it and see what feels right for you with the piece that you're going for. Personally, I like the color, but I don't want it to be so much to where it's just kind of a lot of color. But you can go down and look at how everything sets up. So here's color burn. Kind of looks kind of cool. Linear burn. Just kind of play around with it and see what the piece kind of talks to you a little bit about. Sometimes there's some stuff that you may like a little bit better whenever you're playing with it. Ooh, I kind of like those reds. Might play with a little bit of red in there, especially around the eyes maybe. That looks kind of cool. The difference. I kind of like that grungy green with purple and really off blacks. But I think what I'm going to do is stick to multiply and just bump it up a little bit, maybe about right here to about 90. I think we had it set to originally 78, but I think I'm going to bump it up to about 90 just to kind of get an idea of what I'm looking for. I'm going for a kind of a grungy green with just a little bit of the colors to pop a little bit. The yellows might be a little bit too much for the highlights, especially since I put those oranges down. Kind of like the way the orange looks a little bit. Yeah, I think I might take it back up a little bit. Yeah, that looks kind of good. Maybe a little bit too much. There we go. So that's one really big benefit whenever you're working with layers, which if you're not too familiar, these here on the right side where I say detail, orange, yellows, green, globals, those are my layers. And those are also the clipping mask that sits on the base. So if I turn the base off, everything goes away. As well as the teeth. If I turn the front off, or the tentacle arms, those kind of go away too. It just kind of shows the subject itself, the top portion of the subject. So there we go. That's pretty much how you can use your different tools. You're not stuck with just, okay, here's the paint, I already laid it down. I kind of wish I maybe went in a different direction. With Photoshop, it makes it to where you can go a different direction. Like if I wanted to bump up the purples to really have them show, which I think is a little bit too much, so I'm going to take it back down to about right there. That looks okay. But that's one really big benefit to using Photoshop. You can adjust your colors, you can adjust your area, your subject matter, by working the layers inside the clipping mask. It's a really big benefit. It really saves a ton of time, especially if you really want to take things and experiment as you're doing the piece. This one still has quite a bit to go, so I think I'm going to play with the tentacles a little bit more. This back right one here just kind of looks a little, it needs some love. So I think I'm going to play with it a little bit and just keep pushing forward. So let's get right back to drawing this. And as I continue here working with the tentacles, I realized that while putting all the video together, I forgot to hit record on the very last portion of it where I'm putting the striations with the red colors and dropping some blues for just a little bit more accent colors. So that's my fault, but at the very end you'll be able to see the finished piece that we put together for this logo and just pretty much intro screen for the Twitch channel. But I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you got any questions, don't forget to leave them in the comment section. And if you wouldn't mind, like and subscribe to the channel. And I hope you enjoyed this week's Let's Draw or Let's Paint with Adobe Photoshop. And let's sketch together with Adobe Illustrator at the beginning too. Y'all have a good one. Take care.